Oh, Chrissy's face fell. So I have to lie? But I'm terrible at lying. Remember when I tried to hide that I ate your chocolate and my face turned purple? That was because it was grape-flavored chocolate. Chrissy, Janet sighed. But yes, you have to be our secret agent. Can you do that? For the family. Chrissy stood up straight and gave a clumsy salute. Agent Snow, reporting for duty. I will be a tomb. A very pretty, blonde tomb. Chapter 16. The Landlord's Third Eye. Ralph Furley was a man of many talents, none of which were particularly useful, but he did possess a nearly supernatural ability to sense when his tenants were up to something fun. He stood in the hallway outside 304, his ear pressed against the wood, wearing a safari suit that suggested he was hunting big game in the suburbs. He had seen Tripper and Janet coming home in the rain. He had seen the tuxedo, and he had seen a certain spark in Tripper's eye that didn't fit the sensitive artist mold he'd carefully constructed in his head. Knock, knock, knock. Jack opened the door, a dish towel over his shoulder. Mr. Furley, to what do we owe this? Safari visit? Furley marched into the room, his eyes darting around like a pair of caffeinated hummingbirds. Tripper, I've been thinking. That gala last night, I heard there was a disturbance. A waiter who looked like a certain chef I know, and a man with wet shoes. Wet shoes? Jack laughed, perhaps a bit too loudly. In Santa Monica? In a drought? How absurd. It rained, Tripper. Don't play the fool with me. Janet walked into the room, holding a book. Is everything okay, Mr. Furley? Furley squinted at her. Janet, you look radiant, suspiciously radiant, like a woman who's just discovered a new brand of moisturizer or a new secret. It's just the book, Mr. Furley, Janet said smoothly. A very uplifting biography of a monk, very celibate, very quiet. Suddenly, Chrissy burst out of her room. Hi, Mr. Furley. Don't mind me. I'm just going to the kitchen to not see Jack and Janet kissing. The room went deathly silent. Jack felt his soul leave his body. Furley's head snapped toward Chrissy. Kissing? Who's kissing? Chrissy's eyes went wide. She looked at Jack, then at Janet, then back at Furley. I meant the monk. In the book, he was kissing his prayer beads. Because he loves prayers. Agent Snow out. She turned and ran back into her room, slamming the door. Furley looked at Jack, his lip curling. Tripper, if I find out there's any hanky-panky going on in my building, if I find out you're not as uninterested as you claim, out you go, on your ear, and your ear won't like the sidewalk. He turned on his heel and marched out, his safari suit swishing with indignation. Jack leaned against the door, his forehead resting on the cool wood. That was close. Too close. Janet walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. We're going to need a bigger lie, Jack. Or a better agent, Jack groaned. Chapter 17. The Larry Dallas Strategy. Larry Dallas was not exactly the person you went to for moral guidance, but when it came to deception, he was a grandmaster. Look, Jack, Larry said, nursing a beer at their kitchen table. Furley's onto you. You can't just act uninterested anymore. You have to be actively interested in someone else. Someone who isn't Janet. Jack groaned, rubbing his temples. I'm already dating Janet, Larry. I don't want to date someone else. It's a fake-out, kid. A theatrical masterstroke. We set up a double date. I'll take Janet out, and you take out. Let's see. Fifi. Fifi? Janet asked, leaning against the counter. Who is Fifi? A friend of mine, Larry said with a wink. An actress. She's currently playing nurse number 3 in a soap opera. She can act like she's head over heels for Jack. We do it at the Regal Beagle. Furley's always there on Friday nights for the singles mingle. He sees you with a gorgeous blonde who isn't Janet. He sees Janet with a stud like me, and boom, his suspicions vanish like a used car warranty. Janet frowned. I don't like it. Why do I have to date you, Larry? Because, Larry said, puffing out his chest, I'm the only one Furley actually believes is a threat to the female population. If you're with me, he'll think you've finally developed taste. Jack looked at Janet. He saw the doubt in her eyes, but he also saw the fear of losing their home. Maybe he's right. January. It's just one night. We act our hearts out, and then we come home and laugh about it. The night of the singles mingle arrived. The Regal Beagle was packed with people wearing too much polyester and hopeful expressions. Furley was in his element, wearing a suit that was a shade of purple, usually reserved for royalty or high-end eggplants. Jack was sitting at a corner table with Fifi. Fifi was enthusiastic. She was draped over him like a silk scarf, laughing at jokes he hadn't even finished. "Oh, Jack!" Fifi squealed, loud enough for Furley to hear from across the room. "You're so masculine. Tell me again about that time you wrestled the souffle." Across the bar, Larry was whispering into Janet's ear. Janet was doing her best to look charmed, but her eyes kept darting back to Jack and the blonde woman currently trying to feed him a maraschino cherry. "Janet, baby," Larry murmured. "Stop looking at him." Janet managed a brittle laugh. "Oh, Larry, you're so consistent." Furley was circling the bar like a shark. He paused near Jack's table, adjusting his ascot. "Tripper, I see you're busy, very busy. And who is this vibrant young lady?" "This is Fifi, Mr. Furley," Jack said, his smile feeling like it was held up by staples. "She's a student of the culinary arts. We were just discussing basting. Furley mused, his eyes narrowing. "And Janet? She seems to have found a companion as well." He looked over at Larry and Janet. Larry had his arm draped casually over the back of Janet's chair. Jack felt a surge of jealousy so sharp it nearly made him choke on his beer. He wanted to jump up, knock Larry's arm away, and tell Furley exactly where he could put his safari suit. But he didn't. He forced himself to stay seated. He forced himself to smile at Fifi. "Yes," Jack said, his voice tight. "Larry and Janet are..." Chapter 18, Breaking Point. The acting was going well until Larry decided to improve the performance. "Come on, Janet," Larry whispered. "We need a finale. Something to really seal the deal. Give me a kiss. Just a little one." "No way, Larry," Janet hissed, pulling back. "Furley's watching. He's literally 2 feet away. If you don't do something romantic, he'll know it's a fake. Just on the cheek or the nose." Janet hesitated. She saw Furley leaning in, practically smelling the air for a lie. She closed her eyes and leaned in toward Larry's cheek. But at that exact moment, Jack had had enough. "That's it!" Jack shouted, slamming his beer down on the table. The noise silenced the entire bar. Fifi fell backward in surprise. Furley jumped. Larry and Janet froze. Jack marched across the floor. He didn't look refined. He didn't look like a sensitive artist. He looked like a man who had reached his absolute limit. "Tripper?" Furley stammered. "What's the meaning of this outburst?" Jack ignored him. He walked straight up to Larry, grabbed him by the lapels, and lifted him slightly. "Larry, if you touch her again, I don't care if we're evicted or if I'm banned from every Regal Beagle in the state. I will turn you into a used car kebab." "Jack!" Janet gasped, standing up. Jack turned to her, his eyes blazing. "I can't do it, January. I can't watch you with him. I can't watch you with anyone. I don't care about the lie. I don't care about the apartment." He turned back to Furley, who was staring with his mouth open. "Mr. Furley, you want the truth? Here it is. I'm not who you think I am. I'm a chef. I'm a roommate. And I'm in love with Janet Wood. We've been lying to you, and I'm sorry, but I'm done." The silence in the Regal Beagle was absolute. You could have heard a maraschino cherry drop. Furley looked at Jack. He looked at Janet. "I knew it," Furley said, his voice surprisingly quiet. "I knew there was too much vibration in that building. My brother Bart is going to be very disappointed." "Mr. Furley, please," Janet said, stepping forward. "We only lied because we wanted to stay together. We're a family." Furley sighed, a long, dramatic sound that seemed to deflate his purple suit. "A family, Tripper. You've caused me more headaches than a bad case of shingles. You lied to my face. You sold my bed. You made me judge a Swiss man who looked like a lettuce leaf. He adjusted his ascot one last time. But I suppose I can't have a vacant apartment. And if I kick you out, who else would make me Romanian dinner and sing that ridiculous song? Jack's eyes widened. You mean we can stay? Under one condition, Furley said, a glimmer of his usual self returning. No more lies. And I want a 10% truth tax on the rent for the next 3 months. Deal! Jack and Janet shouted in unison. Chapter 19. The New Normal.